This was a really great question. What if a person has mobility issues? For example, they're in a wheelchair and have handicap plates. Do they still need to exit the vehicle if asked?
Licensed attorney, award-winning writer, businessman, entrepreneur, and other over-the-top crap. It's Life and Law with Eugene Sisco Jr.
Welcome back to another episode of the Real Life and Law podcast. And today we're actually doing something slightly different than we have done in the past. And we're going to be answering questions from the comment section on TikTok from all of you guys. And I think this is definitely something that we're going to be doing moving forward every maybe 10 episodes or so, because there are so many comments that Eugene is unable to get to in some of these videos that are just blowing up because there's hundreds of them. But I was sifting through them all, and there were so many great questions that we've decided to answer a few of them today. So the video views had 474.5 thousand views, and then there was 970 comments. So Eugene, it's pretty. I know you try to get to as many comments as possible, but at that amount, it's pretty impossible.
It's hard, but I've posted every day on various social medias every day for the past almost 10 months now. And so the comments accumulate, these videos just don't die. They hang around.
Yeah.
And so literally hundreds a day, and you can't get to them all. And some of them are really good. I try to scroll through and look and see where good ones are. Before we start, though, I want to kind of mention to everybody that, I'm an attorney. I have combined experience, roughly 60 years of combined which is odd. I'm only 62, but I have 60 years combined experience as a lawyer, 24 years as a lawyer, 40 years as a counselor, mental health worker. So, I feel like I know a lot. Whatever I talk about, I feel confident that I know about it, or I wouldn't talk about it. Now, and when we talk about these questions and I give an answer to a question, I do give a generalized answer, because when someone shoots you a 2 sentence or a small paragraph question, they're leaving out a load of facts. And no matter if you're talking about law, no matter if you're talking about counseling, facts matter. And so when I give an opinion or when I give an answer, you usually get these trolls out there that talk about, well, you didn't mention case number, blah, blah, blah. I don't really like to cite cases. I will cite if I'm talking about law, I'll cite a landmark case. But for every landmark case, there's dozens of cases that occur underneath it that maybe put a different twist on the law. So every time I cite a case, I've got some knucklehead but I love knuckleheads, who will say, well, Pennsylvania v. Sampson says blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, that's probably true. I don't ever argue. So what my advice is mostly is just generic, basic in nature. And I always tell people, if you have a problem about anything I say, you can always contact your own attorney. Mm-hmm. You can always contact your own mental health professional. You can always contact your pastor. You can always contact Uncle Joe or Aunt Sue, and get some of their home remedies. I don't care. I'm just giving you, I think what we want to do here is give everyone our spin and opinion and life experience, because that matters. And if, our name, Real Life and Law, I want to blend all those things. I want to blend walking around with the law and counseling, And so before I started, I wanted to kind of give that information to people and kind of give them a little bit of insight about what I want to try to do and accomplish when we talk. So it's kind of it's maybe a disclaimer, but not really.
We had a little conversation before we started recording, and just talking about how we wanted to mix in the life portion of this podcast. And some ideas that had popped out was like weight loss journeys and divorce and on that kind of stuff. So there's going to be a lot more to this podcast than what you guys have been listening to so far. So another thing too, like if you guys want to want us to talk about something specific, comments below and we can definitely look into that type of scenario.
There's always ways to get hold of myself. Eugene Sisco at Real Life and Law. Go ahead, Katie, give them your info.
Content with a K, _ creations on Instagram, and then content with a K queen on TikTok.
Yeah, you're the queen.
Content queen.
So there's all kinds of ways to get hold of us, and shoot us a comment and let us know what you think. I got thick skin, man. You can't say anything that's going to offend me.
As you said, you were like, I love the knuckleheads. I love the knuckle. And you know what? It's the knuckleheads that make our videos pop off. So we're like, keep it coming, buddy.
I have made a living working with knuckleheads.
Exactly. So let's dive into some of these questions. They're all taken from one specific video on TikTok. As I said before, it has 474.5 thousand views and 970 comments. So the title of the video was 3 things to do if a police officer asks you to leave your vehicle. So before we dive into the questions, could you explain what scenario these people may be getting pulled over for, and then what those 3 things are that the police officer, or 3 things to do if the police officer does try to get you out of the vehicle?
That is probably one of the most common encounters that people have with law enforcement. And that is maybe a routine traffic stop. Maybe the regulations and rules regarding what you might consider not a routine traffic stop, but a scheduled traffic stop. Now, like a DUI checkpoints and things of that nature. Now, the rules are slightly different from that because usually you kind of know in advance if there's a DUI checkpoint. They generally have to advertise them in some way, but with communication the way it is, a DUI checkpoint ain't going to sneak up on you. You're going to see it. They can't have them in the bend of a road anymore. They have to occur largely during the daylight, although I have seen some in the evenings. Yeah.
And then, so they're always like pretty much on a straightaway so you can see the lights. Yeah. Is that what you mean by advertising?
Exactly right. Or your friends will say, or you'll see it on Facebook. There's a roadblock up so-and-so, like where I'm from, word travels when that stuff is around.
I was going to say, because the lingo is a little bit different, or the terminology is a little bit different where I live. I'm in Canada, and I don't know if it's maybe just the province I live in or if it's all of Canada. But when you say like a routine traffic stop, I was assuming, because I was like, what's a traffic stop? To me, that sounds like, I don't even know what it would be, but what we call like a DUI stop, or where they're basically checking to see, have you been drinking tonight? And then if they think you've been drinking, they'll give you like one of those breathalyzer tests. We call that a ride in Canada. Don't ask me why, because
they're gonna haul your ass to jail,
I guess. I'm like, I have no idea where that comes from, but yeah. So it definitely travels by word of mouth. If we're leaving somewhere and there's people driving, they'll say, hey, I just went through a ride program. It's on this intersection. But like they try to, I don't know if they still do this because I haven't seen a ton of them, but they can be pretty sneaky here. Like a lot of the times it's like at the bottom of a hill. So when you're coming over the hill, you can't see, and then you come down and then you see them, and there's no way to exit.
They do that here. That's a tactic. I think that might be a worldwide tactic among all law enforcement that are looking for speeders, because they know you're going down a hill. You might not be accelerating, but you're not going to brake down a hill, and you've built up a pretty good head of steam. That's a good time for them to get you for a speeding ticket. But when I say a routine traffic stop is kind of a misnomer. I don't really like the word. Because if you've been stopped by a police officer, it's hardly routine for you. It might be routine for them, but it ain't routine for you if you're the one going through it. So what I mean by a routine traffic stop is that traffic stop that a police officer does more of a safety check. Maybe you've been speeding. Maybe your license plate or your tags are out of commission, but most likely it's a speeding issue. Most likely law enforcement have seen you going too fast or you're driving a little erratically. And so their job is to pull you over and check to make sure things are safe. So that's the most common stop that a person, most common encounter that an individual is going to have with a police officer is that traffic stop when they've pulled you over for speeding, or maybe you have a tail light missing, or maybe something, maybe because it's almost always initiated by the way you're driving, almost always. So then once you catch their eye by the way you're driving, then they might notice, oh, your tags are out of place, or you have, a tail light gone. But while they're tracking you, when they pull up behind you, they're looking at your license plate, they're plugging that in, and they're getting information on you as they're behind you. So it should make you afraid. If you've got any overdue traffic violations, unpaid tickets, you may even have a warrant out for your arrest, they're going to know it. They're going to know it before they pull you over. So when they're behind you, that's what they're doing. They're checking you. So used to 20 years ago, they couldn't do that. They had to pull you over. They had to pull you over and call ahead and say, hey, what do you got on this license plate number? It was harder. Now it's instant. They got computers in their damn
Right in the car. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
I've only been
instantaneous.
pulled over once, and it wasn't on the highway or the freeway. It was just like on a regular road, and it was a pretty busy road. And I'm like, what did I do? I'm like sitting there. I have a passenger with me, and I'm like, what? I wasn't on my phone. I wasn't speeding. My seatbelt's on. I know that my plate sticker is good. Like I was like, I'm looking at them and I'm like, do you know what I did? They're like, no. So the cop comes up, can I have your license and registration, the normal things? And I went, sure, give it to them. They go back to their car to check everything that they need to check. And then they give me my stuff and they say, thank you. And they send me on my way. There was no explanation. So I was like, maybe there was like the vehicle I was driving, maybe there was like a stolen one somewhere and they just needed to make sure it wasn't the stolen car. I don't know.
Let me give you, naive one. Let me give you.
Oh, perfect. This has been racking my brain for years. I'm so happy I'm going to be able to get the answer.
Take a look in the mirror, right? Look in the mirror. You can look at yourself and you're an attractive lady. They're going to see that you're an attractive lady. They're pulling you over to get your information. There is no damn doubt about it. I have talked to many officers, and that is exactly what they do a lot of times. They'll see you drive. You're an attractive lady. They're going to pull you over just to see what's up.
But then no one pursued me in any way, shape, or form. I didn't get a phone number or a phone call from a random number.
No, but they're looking.
Okay.
They're looking. And you don't know how many people, women, will proposition a police officer when they pull them over. Happens a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So they're just out trolling.
He was bored.
Honestly, if I'm pulling someone over, I'd rather pull an attractive person over as some person that looks like a troll.
That's true. Okay.
I mean, so I think that's the easy answer.
Okay, I'll take it as a compliment then.
Yeah. So if you're pulled over, listen, so you've got the two kind of stops. You've got the one where you've probably had some kind of violation. And then you've got the what I think should be called the routine is the checkpoint. Okay, stop. That to me is routine. For them, routine is pulling me over while my ass is trying to go to court. Speeding or something. So there's some universal rules. When they pull you over to get behind you, they automatically, number one, believe that you have committed a crime. No matter what, I mean, it could be a minor traffic offense, but nonetheless, they believe you have already committed a crime. Now, under our constitutional system, they have to have reasonable suspicion to pull you over. So a traffic violation is that reasonable suspicion. It's really all they have to have. It's a very low bar to pulling you over. So once they get reasonable suspicion, the next level for a police officer and under our Constitution is something called probable cause. Okay. So once they pull you over, they have reasonable suspicion to believe that a crime has been committed. So it could be speeding. So let's say it's speeding. Let's say it's a Friday night. Oh, you're speeding. It's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Aha. It was after, here in our country, I'm not sure how it is there. People generally will get paid twice a month, usually on the 15th and the 30th of the month, unless some places still pay you by the week. But let's say it's payday. It's the 15th of the month. It's Friday. You're out at 11 o'clock. What the hell do you think is going to happen to you? You're going to get pulled over. So they already have reasonable suspicion because you probably have committed some kind of infraction. When they come upon you, we talked about last time, it becomes an investigation. You are part, know it or not, like it or not, of an investigation.
Anytime you open your mouth.
Anytime. So they're going to be looking for more information from you through that traffic stop. Now, to arrest you, they have to have probable cause that there is criminal activity afoot, criminal activity that is happening. So now, what does that look like? Probable cause can mean a whole lot of stuff. Mostly, though, if you're in a car traveling, it's going to mean a couple of things. You've got drugs on you, or you're DUI. That's pretty much the sum total of it. However, once they run your tags, they could find out that you have a warrant and all kinds of other things.
Or what about even like previous offenses too? Like if you've had a DUI before.
Oh, then of course the antenna's going straight up. They're going to look at your record and they're going to see it. Aha. So they're going to come up 1 plus 1 oftentimes in law enforcement's mind equals 5. It's because 1 plus 1 isn't always 2. Sometimes it's 5, but they believe that, who knows what they believe, but they believe there's something else going on. If it's Friday, it's 10:30, it's on a payday, they punch your number up, they see that you've had other offenses. Okay, they stopped you. Now when they roll up on you and they begin the encounter, the interrogation, they're looking for more stuff to haul you in jail. They're looking for probable cause to detain you because to be detained, and this is something that a lot of people have trouble with. Reasonable suspicion just stops you, just gives them permission to encounter you. That's it. To arrest you and to detain and arrest you, they have to have probable cause. That can come in a lot of different areas. But now, and I get this, and you've probably seen it in the comments, police can make up probable cause. Well, yeah, to a degree they can. But if a good lawyer can analyze, now most of these cops have very sophisticated equipment that they are communicating with the base headquarters, time-stamped communication. A lot of them wear body camera. So it's not really like it was 30 years ago where an officer could literally make up probable cause and arrest you. I mean, they can say they have it, but if you've a good lawyer can dissect what happened prior to your detention and your arrest, they can break all that down and see as to whether or not that was valid. And if the probable cause is not valid, then of course anything they find in the pursuit and any evidence they find from faulty probable cause cannot be held against you in court. So when they come up on you, it's an investigation looking for probable cause to take you to jail, period. I mean, that's the way it happens. And so those routine traffic stops are hardly routine for you and can turn into a big problem if you ain't careful. That's why there's a whole lot of things you can do to kind of prevent that before you even get in a car. And it can come from seemingly nowhere.
Why would an officer try to get you out of the vehicle?
Because they believe something else is going on. If they believe that you are under the influence, they have a right to what the law says and what the books say. It's for the officer's safety. Get you out of the car. Now, they don't always pull you out of the car, but they can. They have a right to. And I want to say most of the time, I think they don't. I don't believe they do. But now they can, particularly if they think you're impaired, or if they think there's drugs around. Yeah.
Yeah, so if they wanted to maybe check your car, or if they wanted to perform some of those tests on you to see if you're impaired.
That's the next part of the investigation. So they pull you over. They found probable cause to detain you, which is these tests. Now, you don't have to take these tests. Under our system of justice, two things. Well, number one, you have no obligation under the Fifth Amendment to talk to an officer, period. You have no obligation. So I tell people not to talk to them. Don't say anything to them. If they ask you to take those roadside tests, just say no. Now, are they going to take you to jail? Probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, they're going to approach your car. They're going to ask you questions. If you don't answer them, I feel like you're going to be in a really tough situation after that.
And you don't have a right. You don't have any obligation to have them search your car either.
But, like, if you were to just be like, no, I'm leaving, and drive off, then they'll probably follow you, right?
You can't say, I'm going to drive off. What you say is, as soon as they start asking you to perform these tasks, get out of your car, ask them if you're being detained. Now, that's a legal term. Officers are trained well enough to know that that's a big, heavy word. It means certain things. So if you are being detained, then that will initiate your right to shut the hell up. So it's your Fifth Amendment right. Shut the hell up. You've got a right to shut the hell up. So if they say, no, you're not being detained, then they got to let you go. And then the next question you ask, am I free to leave? Am I being detained? And am I free to leave?
Okay.
So, because those are they have significant meaning. And but most likely if they've stopped you because they believe you're intoxicated, they're going to ask you to leave the car. You need to leave the car. You're going to get all kinds of road rash on you when they pull your ass out of the car. And I tell people, don't do that. Just don't. If they ask you to come out of the car, simply come out of the car, shut the door behind you, lock it. Because they don't have a right to get in that car. They have no right to get in that car. Now, again, they could find probable cause. They could say there's probable cause for them to believe there's drugs inside. If they don't smell marijuana or anything like that coming from the car, that probable cause looks pretty flimsy.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't smell alcohol or in plain view. Now, if they see paraphernalia laying in the front seat, if they see it in the back seat, if it's in plain view, they've got damn good probable cause. And if you shut your door and lock it, they're going to get in it. So if you've got that, if you're throwing a party in your car on a Friday night after payday and 10:30, you got all kinds of going on, they're going to find a way to get in your car. Okay. So that's the probable cause. So when they pull you out, you have no right, no obligation. You have no obligation to speak to the officers. And so once they pull you over, just don't talk to them. Just say no. Don't. I honestly just shake. I tell people, shake your head. So if you've got alcohol on you, they're going to smell it. That's more evidence. And the more you talk, people think, okay, I'm going to talk to this dude. He's going to let me go. I'm going to be nice. He's going to see how nice I am. He's going to see how honest I am. No, that's a bad idea. You get the diarrhea of the mouth, shit falls out that you don't want falling out. And they're going to use that against you. So just don't talk, even if they pull you over, because you have to leave the vehicle if they ask you to, but you don't have to talk to them.
So let's just dive into these then. Okay, so the first one is from Joe, and some of these are just screen names, like usernames, so I don't even know if it's their real names.
Joe's a good guy.
But Joe's a good guy. So does a cop have to tell you why they've pulled you over?
No, they're going to ask you. A lot of times they're going to ask you, do you know
Do
why I
you know
pulled you
why?
over? And you should say no.
Most of the time, people don't know.
Well, you just say no. Because get this, if you say yes, and this is everybody's, yeah, I'm speeding. You've just admitted. Once you admit to wrongdoing, it's harder for you to take that back. Just say no.
So if you say no, but you were speeding and they have the evidence because they have the gun or whatever
Well, but
that
those things can malfunction. You can defend a lot of
oh.
that stuff.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what you're saying is you could take them to court if for the
Yeah,
ticket.
if they give you a ticket, then you can challenge that. You can't hardly challenge an admission because they're going to put that in their report. I asked them what they were doing because the report's going to say that. I asked the subject if he knew what he was doing. They said, "Yeah, I was speeding." And then I asked him, "Have you been drinking?" The subject says, "Yeah, I probably had a couple." You've already screwed yourself.
I actually got I got a ticket and it was for it was so annoying. So I renewed my license plate sticker, but I hadn't put it on my license plate because I had left it at my father's place. And he was literally driving that day to give it to me because it was overdue. And so I was parked on a road in Toronto, and then I got a ticket for A, not having my license plate sticker up to date, and B, I think it was something like driving without a proper license plate sticker. I'm like, that's the same thing. Why am I getting charged twice for the same thing? But I guess they can do that. Anyways, it was ridiculous the amount of money. It was like a few $100. And I decided to fight it, and I didn't even have to go to court. They just let it go.
And when you admit to those things, so the big part about that is once you make those big admissions and once you start talking, everything you say can be used against you in court if once they give you a ticket or arrest you. So you're giving your attorney no
Wiggle
room to
room.
work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't challenge. It probably at that point be impossible to challenge the probable cause. Reasonable suspicion is really hard to challenge. Okay, probable cause is easier to challenge. But if you make all these big grand admissions, you leave the officer with no way to challenge all of the things that they might find. So that's the big thing about talking to the officer. It's not that you're trying to hide something, because they get this a lot. If you're not, my favorite comment, I know you've got more, but this is my favorite one. I get it a lot. And it's usually from some flavor of law enforcement or a relative of law enforcement. And I promise I love law enforcement. I'm as button up a guy as you're ever going to see. I'm not the rule follower that I probably should be. However, I do believe in law and order. But the comment I hate the most is, well, why should you matter if they search you? Why do you matter? If you're not breaking the law, then let them search your car. Well, okay, I'm going to tell Jane Doe or Jim Jones or whoever you are. What I want to say is that, okay, so let that officer knock on your door of your house and say, hey, just in the neighborhood, you mind if I take a look around? I'm sure you're doing nothing. Just let me take a look around. Just to see. I'm in the neighborhood. Got time to kill. It's only an hour or so before I leave. Just let me take a look in your house. Go through your shit. That same person that tells me, shoots me these comments, would never consent to having law enforcement look in their house. So the same rule applies. Why would you let that person look in your car? Why would you submit to any kind of interaction? We have our rights because because the government at some point can be overbearing. And so we have these rights for our protection. They're for people who are innocent and they're for people who are guilty. So that comment is the one that gets me the most. It's like, well, let them search your car.
There's a lot of people that comment that as well. It wasn't just one person.
Yeah. And I try to explain it to people. It's your right to not say anything. Now, if you want to, go ahead. But don't tell me or your friend or neighbor that now you should just let them like it's nothing. These rights are like really sacred and they're ingrained in over 200, well, since 1776. I'm horrible at math, but since then, we've had these rights. Of course, I think the Bill of Rights came later, but nonetheless, we have them and they're there to use.
Yeah, I was gonna say use them.
Yeah, because when you start running your yap, and they do give you a ticket, you're not giving anybody any room to move.
A good way to look at it is if a random stranger, and they weren't in a police officer's uniform, just a random stranger you had never seen before came and knocked on your door and said, "Let me look around," would you say yes? No. But the reason that you would let a cop in is because of their badge or their uniform. But like, what's the difference?
They have that
Authority.
built-in inherent authority, which honestly, my my job and all of the information I give is, you know, you can make it easy. You can do that. I never tell if you do whatever's comfortable for you. I just don't want to make it easy for them. I would just make it as hard as they want. Now, there's a lot of things in these traffic stops that they're going to, I get that, you get the naysayers, and you've probably seen those comments. Or they're going to do whatever they want to. Yeah, but don't make it easy for them. Get out of your car, shut your door, and if they want to get a search warrant or if they believe there's probable cause to get in your car, that there's drugs in there that they see, then they're going to get in your car. But don't make it easy for them. Just stand there. Don't engage them. Don't comment. Just stand there. Let them get in your car if they want to. Let them call the dogs. You hear that? They'll just call the dogs on you. Well, yeah, let them call the damn dogs.
Okay, this next question is slightly off topic, but I thought, it might be a good one to ask. This is from KC. Don't know if that stands for something.
The Sunshine Band. Back
there
in
you
the
go.
70s, KC and the Sunshine Band.
Do you, and I don't know if this is going to be a simple yes or no question for you to answer. Do you have to pay red light tickets in Virginia?
Okay, yeah, that's real specific. So let me tell you how some of these tickets now. I don't know specifically about Virginia. It varies literally, not just state to state, but city to city, because these cities have their own ordinances about how they're going to handle traffic. So I will tell you now, if your municipality, your city, it's usually not a state thing because those things are usually governed on the local level. A lot of these states get together and will hire these companies to come up and put traffic lights in that will shoot a picture of your license plate when you go through a toll, or if you're speeding or you go through a red light. They'll hit you that way. You'll get it in the mail. If it's something that you got in the mail, read that ticket closely, because this is something I didn't pick up until my daughter, who is a prolific ticket getter, speeding violations. Yeah, when she was young, had her license temporarily suspended. We had to work like hell to get them back. Back probably in a 2-year period, probably had 30 of them.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Need for Speed, eh? Jeez. Fast and the Furious.
So I have prosecutor friends who didn't tell me a lot of this. I didn't know it till she had got herself in a pickle where they suspended her license. Then she comes to old dad to help fix. I didn't fix it. She had to serve her probation time and take her classes and do her thing, because I'm not a fixer. I'll fix some things, like 1 or 2 times. I say, okay, now, but I would never fix 30. And I'm not exaggerating. So what she showed me, she sent this to me and said, "Dad, look at this ticket." She screenshot it, sent to me. It's in Tennessee. And I said, it was in a little municipality, little city. And it said it's not punishable. It's not punishable by jail time nor by a fine. Although they're sending you that ticket to pay it. So a lot of times these third-party companies are contracted with these cities. So what they do is they send you an official-looking ticket from the locality that you got the ticket in, the camera ticket. Now I'm talking about the camera tickets here. A lot of times you don't have to pay them.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't have to pay it.
They just hope you do.
Yeah, I looked at it and I said, so I went one step further. I was a little skeptical. So I called the clerk, the local clerk of the area, and said, hey, got this ticket from this company. And she was really honest. I said, it looks like to me that I don't have to pay this. She said, you don't.
Wow.
She said, you paid it, they just do it. I said, I'll be damned. So now you get those tickets. Now, so the answer to that question is, I'm not sure. It's not a state thing. I am sure about that. It's generally a municipality thing because those things are governed and they're different from city to city.
So just make sure to read the fine print.
Yeah, you look at those tickets and then put a call in. Hell, the phone call's free. Put a call in to the local place and say, because a lawyer might not even know. If you're not a lawyer, and again, we talked about this earlier in the little disclaimer, if you're not a lawyer and you deal with that particular area of the law, you won't know unless you get in a book and research it, look it. And, most lawyers aren't going to spend an hour worth of research dealing with a $100 ticket. They're not going to do it.
All right. This next question is from Betty, and you kind of touched on it a bit, but I will still ask it. If you don't let the police search your vehicle when they ask, will they arrest you?
So that's a kind of a two-parter. So they can pull you out of the car. They can't arrest you just for you saying no. They cannot do that. So not to consent to something that you have a constitutional right to not consent to. Generally, we're talking about a search. It's a Fourth Amendment right. You have a constitutional right not to consent to that. So they can't take you to jail based on that. Now, am I going to sit here and say, does it happen? That it doesn't happen? Yeah, it does. Sadly, it happens all the time. These officers get mad. They get pissed off. If you know your rights and you let that officer know your rights, they get mad. Because again, you are questioning their judgment. They've pulled you over and they believe you've done something wrong. You're questioning their judgment. And they will show you, if they get the opportunity, that you're wrong, they're right. So can they arrest you? Legally, no. But do they arrest you? Yeah, it happens. It happens because they'll find that probable cause to detain and arrest you. But the tricky part of that is that they have to really prove it. There's something called a probable cause hearing. Most lawyers don't take advantage of it. That's when they have a separate hearing to determine whether or not that probable cause was valid. You got a lot of lazy damn lawyers out there that want to collect their $250 for a DUI and work up a really nice basic plea agreement or whatever it is, and not due diligence and work that case up. That's why I don't charge a lot. Now I do a lot of free work. I give my services away. I help whenever I can. But I'm not going to do a DUI for $250. If you get a lawyer and you do a DUI for even $500, you're going to get a lawyer that's not going to work that case. Because to work a DUI case take you about 4 or 5 hours of work, and that's not counting a trial. That's filing motions and having extra hearings. So, and when you consent, you take away your right to do those challenges. So you have a probable cause hearing. Are they going to find it? You get a young officer that's pissed off and convinced that he's Jesus. Yeah, you're going to go to jail. So.
Oh, geez. Convinced that he's Jesus.
Yeah, and he's probably the 32-year-old Jesus. He's not the 7-pound, 6-ounce baby Jesus. He's the big Jesus with a badge and a gun, and cause you a lot of grief.
Okay, moving on. Dawn submitted this question. We kind of touched on this again, but a different element is brought into this question. So what if they have probable cause or have a canine false hit on the car? How can you prevent the search? Okay, so first, can you explain, because I don't know what a false hit is, a canine false hit.
Yeah.
And then explain if you can prevent the search.
If you're watching out there, we'll do a whole podcast just on canine searches because it's a big deal. It's junk science. Almost every tool that law enforcement has, almost every gimmick that they have, including these canines, is junk science. It looks like science, and they do some kind of research like science, but it ain't science. The methods that they use are not repeatable. They're not reliable. And those canines. So the comment said earlier, people will say, can I search your car? You say no, which is what you should say. Well, they'll just call the dogs. I'm an old hillbilly, so that's the way they say it. We'll just call the dogs on you. As a cop will say that. You want them dogs coming up here? I say let them get the dogs. Most of the time, them dogs are going to hit. They call it a hit. That means the dog's going to walk around your car. They're not allowed to touch the car. They're going to walk around the car with their handler, and their dog's going to act funny. They're going to do something to notify the handler that there's something inside. And that's just bullshit. Sorry.
Okay, so a false hit is if they get a hit, but there's nothing really there.
They get a hit. Well, we don't know that. The officer doesn't know it, but these officers can control those dogs. Those dogs know their handlers. Dogs inherently, and we talked about this later, but dogs inherently want to please people. Dogs are really smart. So they're going to hit on that car. They're going to say, they're going to do whatever they're going to do, bark, paw at the ground, or shake their head, or might even, use the bathroom. Who knows? Take a big dump right there by the car. Who knows? But they're going to do whatever they're going to do. So then at that point, that officer has probable cause to search your car. So then they're going to do whatever they got to do to get in that car. And you can't do anything about it. Again, though, you have a probable cause hearing and all of that.
So the next question is submitted by Becca. This was a really great question. What if a person has mobility issues? For example, they're in a wheelchair and have handicap plates. Do they still need to exit the vehicle if asked?
That's a good question. Yeah, you do. Because, from law enforcement's end, they don't know if what you have is valid. They don't know it. You can show them the wheelchair and the walker if you've got in a back seat. You can explain to them, but at some point, they're still going to want to make you get out of the car. If they want you to get out of the car, because they're skeptical. Again, they believe something's going on. And if they've asked you to leave the car, they believe something's going on. And they're going to get you out of that car one way or another.
Okay. I thought that was a really good question, though.
Yeah, it is.
So this one's also a great question. What if the car / van, bus, or RV is my home? Do the same laws apply? And this was submitted, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, May Luna, I think is the way you pronounce their name.
Yeah, they do. Your home, even though it's a home, and actually the court, oddly, and I didn't prepare for this question, but I remember reading just recently when I did a whole series on this kind of stuff. There is we all have a reasonable expectation of privacy in our car. Now, the search of a home requires a whole lot more than a search of a car. However, the courts have held that a mobile home doesn't enjoy the same benefits and protections under our Constitution as a regular home.
Oh.
If it's on the roadways, yeah, they're going to come inside. If they believe there's probable cause, they're going to run. And you see a lot of these entertainers that ride these big $60,000, $100,000, vans, and I know van's the wrong damn word, but them big, huge.
The RVs?
Yeah, the travel buses. So Willie Nelson's famous for it, and a lot of other ones, smoking weed, and they'll pull that one over and they'll go plumb through it, and so yeah, it happens.
Okay, excellent. Moving on. This is the last one. This is from Timothy. Do the same rules apply to the passenger?
Yeah, the same rules apply. Like, if an officer ask you, and so a lot of people don't know this either. If you're a passenger, now this varies from state to state. Now, the only thing that varies from state to state is the ability for you to identify yourself. So if you're a driver, you don't have to say anything to that officer. However, you do have to hand over your license because you're on the road, insurance documents and things like that. It's going to have your name and address on it. So they're going to know who you are. If you're a passenger, depending on the state, there are some states that are non-ID states. You don't have to tell that officer who you are, where you live, or any of that information. You can be completely silent. Now, again, that depends. I think there's like 25 or 26 states that are a no ID state. That means the officer cannot ask you who you are. You don't have to carry an ID.
That's interesting.
But you do have to get out of the car. You have to get out of the car, and just like the driver, you have a constitutional right to shut the hell up. And I recommend, if they're pulling you out of the car, that you exercise that right and say nothing, not yes, not no, not anything. Shake your head. Because the officer will get it. So you're not going to talk to me? Nope. Don't even say nope. Just say, I've been an advocate of having a sign. I have COVID, or I have strep. I have the flu. Whatever it is, hold it up there. They're probably going to not want you to talk to them, but that might be telling a lie. So we don't want to I don't want to advocate anybody lying, but you could do that.
You just have it in your car with you at all times.
Just have it. Same.
If you're a female, just stick it in your purse.
Yep. Here. Oh, well, this is off topic. I like telling stories. So I'm visually impaired. You know it. Everybody else out there knows it. So I was shopping. It's not funny, but I think it's funny. So this dude approaches me during the holiday season. You get a lot of panhandlers, people begging for money. And so he approaches me and gives me his card. I can't see well enough to read the card. So I'm blind. He gives me this card. He's not saying anything. He just gives me the card. I'm like, well, damn it, are you not going to speak?
Because he's mute.
Yeah. I go next door off another aisle, and I told my wife, I said, what the hell does this card say? I said, this dude gave it to me and I can't read it. She said, what are the odds of that? A mute gives you a card that you can't see, and he is asking for money.
A lot of the times it's a scam, though.
Yeah.
I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen them before.
Yeah.
But I wonder if he was, do you remember if it said if he was deaf as well, or if he was just mute? Because he should have been able to hear you.
He was deaf.
Oh, he's a deaf mute.
Deaf mute, yeah. I can't see.
Yeah, as long as you tried to show him.
Yeah, and I wasn't being insensitive. I truly didn't know, but when I took it in the next aisle, my wife says, "Oh my God, that guy just had a bad day when he looked at you."
He probably just thought you were illiterate.
Yeah. He's just another dumb hillbilly.
Okay, well, what a great way to end the episode with that funny story. But yeah, was there anything else that you wanted to add before we sign off for the day?
No, I don't think so. Just, look us up at Real Life and Law. And you can always, I write grants. That's one of the big things I do. In addition to being an attorney, I'm a grant writer, and we'll talk about that later. I've written millions of dollars in grant, and that's, I have a really nice vacation home here in Florida where I'm at now, largely because of money I made writing grants for other people.
If you want to communicate with Eugene, all of his links will be in the description. He also sells a book on grant writing, which you can access through another link in the description on his website. So yeah, all the information will be in the description box below.
Yeah, and while I'm plugging, we'll be getting out the book on DUIs, right?
Yep, that's almost done. Everything's almost done for that.
So I have a really nice book on DUIs, the whole process, the testing, and I'm as proud of that book as I am the grant writing book. I put a lot of time and energy into it, and with your help and guidance and wizardry,
Wizardry.
We'll put this thing out there and hopefully give people out there something that they can access fairly cheaply, and get them some good information.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, until next time, we'll see you guys on another episode.
Turn me around, help me to the door. I'll never make it on my own.